had sex, unprotected sex, but that you also were having sex with other people, is without a doubt your daughter Walesia's biological father. Fiance, Miss Collins, doesn't want him in your life. Miss Chappelle will stop at nothing to get you back.
I never watched Walesi. I don't even have a place to stay myself.
Right?
Yes.
It wasn't no relationship.
It wasn't a relationship.
No.
You were just having sex.
Just having sex.
If you were having sex and she got pregnant, were you using protection every time?
Because at the time, she was messing around with other guys.
Had sex, unprotected sex, but that you also were having sex with other people. That you were having sex with other people in addition to Mr. Todd during the window of conception?
No. Sometimes the truth does not simply reveal clarity. Sometimes it tears apart illusions, shakes foundations, and forces every person involved to discover who they really are. In the courtroom of Judge Lauren Lake, where emotions and law collide, the truth is not just a statement. It is a turning point. It is the moment when hidden intentions, broken promises, and silent fears come to the surface, and everything changes in front of everyone watching. Here, a DNA test is never just a DNA test. It is the doorway to identity, responsibility, family, and the kind of truth that people regret taking when they are not ready for the consequences. This case unfolds inside a courtroom where multiple individuals have arrived with heavy emotional histories, unresolved accusations, and deep personal wounds. Judge Lauren Lake presides with firm compassion, observing each person carefully. The environment is respectful but intense. Everyone knows that when the results come, lives will shift permanently. The courtroom includes a mother who claims that the man she is accusing is without any doubt the biological father of her child. She is confident, at least on the surface. She believes her story is supported by what she has lived through, memories of the relationship, moments of trust, promises made, and expectations built. Beside her are documents, receipts, and emotional exhaustion from caretaking and financial strain. She also arrives with frustration and disappointment, expressing that parenting alone is difficult, especially without consistent emotional or financial support. The defendant, the man she claims is the father, has a very different emotional position. He sits firm in denial, arguing that there is no chance the child is his. His stance is shaped by past interactions, suspicion, and personal knowledge of shared relationships and overlapping timelines. He believes that the mother's narrative is incomplete, leaving out important aspects. He claims that she was involved with other partners during the same period when conception would have been possible. His voice is not only defensive, but also protective of his current relationship, his reputation, and his understanding of responsibility. His fiancée is also present in court, a significant emotional presence. She believes that the accusation is intentionally manipulative. She stands by her partner not only emotionally but logically, claiming that the allegation was part of a larger attempt to rekindle a relationship that no longer exists. She expresses frustration because, in her perspective, they tried to help the mother at one point, even allowing her to live with them when the situation seemed unsafe. This part of the story adds complexity because it suggests that there was once cooperation and trust that later eroded. Judge Lauren Lake listens to all sides carefully because in her courtroom, the relationship between law and justice is at the center. It is not only about legal procedure, but also emotional accountability. This is the same dynamic often explored in the Game-Changing Attorney podcast, where attorneys discuss how truth is shaped by argument, context, intention, and evidence. The judge emphasizes how important it is to understand that DNA tests carry significant weight. This is where truth changes everything, a phrase often spoken in Celebrate Recovery testimonies, where people share how confronting reality leads to transformation. However, facing reality is rarely comfortable. The mother explains her financial challenges. She recalls losing a job because childcare was not available, forcing her to pay babysitting fees, which created instability and eventually unemployment. She expresses how hard it is to maintain stability as a single parent. Her emotional tone is not only defensive but pleading. She believes that the man should accept his role and support the child, emotionally and financially, This ties naturally into conversations seen in Supreme Court child support cases, where determinations of responsibility deeply shape the life of a child. The man, however, challenges the narrative, claiming that he never even agreed he was the father. He argues that any caregiving or involvement was unintentional or misinterpreted. He points out that the timeline of intimacy overlaps with other partners she had. This forms a critical part of the legal consideration. In many DNA test cheating stories, this overlapping timeline creates doubt, mistrust, and accusations from all sides. Judge Lauren Lake highlights how people sometimes regret taking the DNA test because once the result comes, no one can undo it. There is no returning to the previous emotional stories, no space to remain in denial or hope. This is why the court views the DNA test not just as scientific evidence, but as a defining emotional moment. The emotional intensity rises when the discussion moves toward past conflicts, damaged property, arguments between the mother and the fiancé, and accusations of jealousy. These tensions indicate unresolved hurt and anger. This aligns with concepts discussed in the Divorce Course podcast, where emotional tension escalates when parenting, relationships, and identity collide. Judge Lauren Lake also addresses the concept of justice in jurisprudence, emphasizing that justice is not just about who is right emotionally, but who holds legal responsibility based on proven biological connection. This is where the Adverse Inference in Evidence Act becomes relevant. The judge evaluates not only the evidence provided, but behaviors, testimony consistency, willingness to cooperate, and credibility. During the case, multiple family members share input. Some argue based on resemblance, others based on behavior, others based on things said in the past. These testimonies mirror patterns found in adoption stories, full episodes, where identity and belonging are shaped by relationships, not only biology. The uncertainty and emotional weight becomes almost overwhelming. The courtroom atmosphere grows heavy before the results are introduced. Everyone knows that the DNA test is absolute, unlike emotional memory, social claims, or verbal agreements. The truth emerging here is the kind of truth that removes excuses, illusions, and assumptions. The judge prepares to deliver the results, explaining that once the biological truth is established, all follow-up matters such as child support and legal responsibility become straightforward. She reminds everyone present that if the man is the biological father, he must step forward and provide emotional, financial, and parental support. If he is not the biological father, then the mother cannot hold him legally or morally responsible. The room becomes silent. Everyone waits. The DNA results are handed to Judge Lauren Lake. She looks at them carefully. She takes a moment of silence, letting the weight of truth settle in the room, because truly, this is where truth changes everything. She begins to speak. In the matter of determining biological fatherhood, and this is the moment where the entire courtroom holds its breath, knowing that life is about to shift permanently. As Judge Lauren Lake prepares to reveal the DNA test results, the atmosphere becomes dense with emotion. Every person in the courtroom is bracing for impact. This is the exact moment where the principle often discussed in the relationship between law and justice becomes real and tangible. The law provides the process. Justice, however, is what each person hopes will emerge from the truth. Judge Lauren Lake maintains composure. Her tone is steady, guided by both rationality and empathy. She knows that the result will not only clarify biological reality, but also expose emotional vulnerability. She has seen countless individuals in her courtroom who believed they knew the truth until science proved something different. The weight of this reality reflects what is commonly said in legal commentary platforms like the Game-Changing Attorney podcast, where the difference between what a person believes and what can be proven becomes the central battle. When the result is read, reactions vary sharply. In the first case, the man is determined not to be the father. His relief appears almost immediate. It is visible not only in his expression, but in the way his shoulders relax. However, his relief does not come without complexity. There is the awareness that his denial was justified, but it also confirms the painful reality that there was never a shared child, and the bond imagined was only one-sided. The mother, on the other hand, is devastated. The DNA test result contradicts everything she believed or wanted to believe. She is stunned not only by the scientific clarity, but by the emotional consequences. This is where the courtroom becomes not just a place of judgment, but a place of emotional unraveling. This is where the phrase "people regret taking the DNA test" becomes meaningful. Once the truth is revealed, it cannot be undone, negotiated, or softened. Judge Lauren Lake reminds the mother that despite her belief, biology is decisive. There is no legal responsibility for a man who is not the biological father. She emphasizes the importance of truth, even when it is painful. The mother is left not only with emotional loss, but also the necessity to begin again, perhaps searching for the real father or accepting the uncertainty. The financial claims also shift according to the DNA result. The mother's claim for lost wages and babysitting expenses is denied. Judge Lake clarifies that without biological confirmation, the man has no legal or moral responsibility to provide childcare or financial support. This aligns with principles seen in Supreme Court child support precedents, where responsibility is based on proven parentage, not assumed relationships. Likewise, the counterclaim filed by the man and his fiancée regarding property damage is addressed. Since the mother openly admitted that she damaged their car windows in a moment of anger and frustration, the court orders her to reimburse the repair amount. Judge Lake notes that emotional reactions cannot justify property destruction. This falls under the theme of accountability and personal decision-making, which are also frequently examined in Celebrate Recovery testimonies, where people reflect on how emotional impulses impact real-life consequences. After the ruling, Judge Lake emphasizes that this moment, although painful, offers clarity. The mother must now face the truth and move forward with new understanding. The courtroom transitions into a place of resolution rather than conflict. The result changes relationships, expectations, and future paths. But the emotional intensity of the day does not end there. The next portion of the court session involves another case, equally complex, revolving around identity, belonging, and the psychological weight of parental connection. In this case, a young woman comes before the court, believing that the man she has called father all her life may now be denying her identity. This is a different emotional landscape. Rather than fighting over a young child's support, this is the unraveling of 18 years of family understanding. The daughter stands at the center of the courtroom with a mixture of pain, confusion, and longing. Her mother stands beside her, reaffirming her claim that the man is indeed the father. Meanwhile, the man expresses that while he has acted as her father for most of her life, he harbors doubt because of a previous situation involving another child. In that earlier situation, he was misled into believing a child was his, only to discover through a DNA test that he was not the father. That moment left emotional scars, distrust, and deep caution. This caution is the foundation for his uncertainty. Now, this is where the court reflects on DNA test cheating stories and how deception or miscommunication can create emotional trauma that shapes future relationships. For many individuals, one experience of betrayal becomes the lens through which all future relationships are viewed. Judge Lauren Lake acknowledges that doubt can be emotionally logical, even when it is painful. The mother argues that the circumstances were different in the past situation. She insists that when the daughter was conceived, she was only with the man in question. She denies any overlap or confusion. However, the man believes that deception in one area means there may have been deception in another. His perspective aligns with aggravated skepticism, something seen frequently in episodes of the Divorce Course podcast, where emotional history affects judgment and trust. The daughter expresses the emotional pain of uncertainty. She explains how she grew up believing this man was her father, how she tried to maintain contact, form connection, and stay emotionally present. Yet, she says she often felt rejected or distanced. She describes the emotional emptiness that comes from loving someone who may not fully accept you. Her voice reflects the deep longing found in many adoption stories' full episodes, where identity questions are not merely biological, but personal, psychological, and spiritual. Judge Lauren Lake observes that the lack of consistent communication between father and daughter contributed to emotional strain. She emphasizes that even when biological connection is uncertain, emotional responsibility requires effort. The court acknowledges that sometimes even parents with doubts could have nurtured stability through communication, presence, or emotional reassurance. As the DNA test envelope is brought forward once again, the atmosphere shifts to another emotional peak. For the daughter, the result will determine not only biological identity, but the foundation of her life narrative. For the mother, the result either validates her truth or exposes deception. For the man, it determines whether his caution was mistaken or justified. When the results are revealed, the daughter learns that the man is not her biological father. The room absorbs the shock. The mother is confronted with the weight of her earlier denial. The daughter experiences a profound emotional fracture, and the man experiences a mixture of sadness, relief, and confirmation of earlier doubt. Judge Lake speaks again, reminding everyone that truth, even when painful, allows forward movement. She emphasizes that emotional healing must now begin, and that identity is not solely defined by DNA. She acknowledges the emotional loss and encourages continued reflection and rebuilding. She reminds them that while biology may determine legal responsibility, emotional relationships can be rebuilt, reshaped, and redefined. The court session reveals that truth changes everything, but truth also provides the foundation for whatever is built next. The courtroom sits in a quiet stillness after the DNA results are announced. The daughter stands there absorbing the truth that the man she believed was her biological father is not connected to her by blood. Judge Lauren Lake knows this moment is fragile. She speaks calmly, reminding everyone that identity is not erased just because DNA does not match. The emotional bonds, memories, shared moments, and personal growth still hold significance. But now, new clarity is needed to move forward. The daughter's sense of self is shaken. For her entire life, she built her understanding of family through the presence or absence of her father. She tried to reach him, communicate with him, prove her love, and remain connected. She believed that effort would result in closeness. Now she must rebuild. This is the kind of emotional journey often discussed in Celebrate Recovery testimonies, where individuals confront painful truths about identity, abandonment, responsibility, and healing. The mother is faced with accountability. Judge Lauren Lake turns to her and makes clear that the depth of pain caused here is not only the daughter's to bear. When a parent withholds truth or shapes truth to preserve relationships, the long-term impact can be devastating. The court does not accuse her of malicious intent, but emphasizes that personal history and emotional struggle do not erase responsibility. This relates to deeper legal philosophy, something that scholars refer to as the concept of justice in jurisprudence. Justice is not just the law's decision, but the fairness of truth among people. The man takes in the result with mixed emotions. He is not the biological father, yet he is not unaffected. There is still the memory of 18 years. There were moments where he believed, moments where he cared, times where he hoped connection could survive. But deception, whether intentional or accidental, shaped his distance. He expresses a desire now that he knows the truth. If the daughter allows it, he may still want to be involved in her life. Judge Lake encourages him to consider what consistent emotional presence looks like, not as obligation, but as humanity. At this stage of the court session, Judge Lake speaks with purpose about how DNA test results affect people. She explains that in many cases, people regret taking these tests because they are unprepared for what truth reveals. But truth is not meant to destroy. It is meant to clear the path ahead. Once false beliefs fall away, new understanding can begin. This reflects the themes seen across legal and recovery platforms, including the Divorce Course podcast and the Game-Changing Attorney podcast, where emotional honesty is the turning point for growth. These two cases illustrate something broader about family disputes. They show how relationships are shaped by memory, affection, assumptions, fear, pride, and longing. They show that courtrooms are not only spaces for evidence and decisions, but spaces where identity and belonging take new form. They show that truth changes everything, not just legally, but emotionally. Judge Lauren Lake emphasizes how the law handles situations like these through structured principles. This includes the Adverse Inference in Evidence Act, which allows the court to consider behavior when evidence is incomplete or withheld. It also relates to Supreme Court child support doctrine, where support is required only when biological or legal parentage is established. The law seeks clarity and fairness, while individuals seek comfort and reassurance. The first mother must now continue her search for the biological father. This is not merely a legal responsibility, but a deeply personal journey. She must navigate her own memories, relationships, and emotional history. She may need to confront moments she has avoided, yet this clarity may also be empowering, giving her a starting point for truth-driven parenting rather than assumption-driven expectations. The fiancé who stood with the man feels validated. Her role in the courtroom was more than emotional support. It was testimony to how relationships intersect with conflict. She believes she protected her home, her partnership, and her sense of stability. Now that the truth is confirmed, she can move forward with stronger trust and fewer emotional uncertainties. In the second family, the daughter faces the beginning of identity reconstruction. She may now look to learn where she comes from biologically. She may seek answers from her mother. She may explore broader family history. She may need emotional support to process the grief of losing what she believed was true. Judge Lake gently emphasizes that identity is not only biological but built through character, growth, love, and personal strength. The mother in the second case must now acknowledge fully that her earlier choices have consequences that echo decades later. She did not anticipate that secrecy would one day turn into emotional conflict. Now she must help her daughter heal rather than defend the past. The man must consider how he wants to proceed emotionally. He is not obligated to remain present, yet he may choose to. Judge Lake reminds him that presence is a decision, not a requirement. If he wants to maintain a relationship with the daughter, he must rebuild trust through consistency, kindness, and accountability instead of guilt or resentment. The courtroom environment, at this concluding stage, becomes a reflection of life itself. Families do not come to court because they are broken. They come because they are searching for clarity. They come because the truth, even when painful, gives shape to what comes next. In Adoption Stories full episodes, this moment resembles the point where identity is redefined, not erased. In DNA test cheating stories, this moment is the emotional fallout. In parenting law podcasts and discussions, this is the heart of the relationship between law and justice. Judge Lauren Lake closes the session by reminding everyone that the purpose of the court is not to punish emotion, but to guide truth. She encourages therapy, counseling, open communication, and emotional honesty. She emphasizes that healing does not happen instantly. It unfolds through time, courage, and willingness to face vulnerability. The courtroom slowly empties. The individuals leave with a mixture of relief, pain, clarity, and unanswered questions. But they leave with truth. The truth now belongs to them. And what they do with it will shape the rest of their lives. Some will rebuild relationships. Some will distance themselves. Some will seek closure. Some will seek connection. But all of them now move forward in a direction grounded in reality. Because in the courtroom of Judge Lauren Lake, truth changes everything.